Hello, welcome back to Aruba ClearPass and AOS8 integration with the Google G.Suite for SSO authentication. Continue with our previous session. In this session, we will find out how to register the G.Suite trial account for testing purpose, and we will start to find out how to configure AOS8 guest Wi-Fi login with the ClearPass Cloud Portal integration with the Google G.Suite in SAML SSO workflow. These two things, right? So let's find out the first one, how to create the G.Suite account for a 14-day trial, free trial. So we just copy this link, we paste to the browser. Now you can key in your business. I can key the name like CPPM SSO2. Just use country Singapore. Click next. CPPM SSO. Right, I key in my email address. Next. No, I need one, right? Does your business have a domain? So this for trial, so we don't have the domain, so we just and we can search for cppmsso2.com, for example, right? Search for that. Okay, just click next. This is address, right? Just key in anything, whatever, right? Next. Share, no thanks. Okay, then you can key in your username is here, so you can key in your normally you can key in your admin, right, or whatever. Let's key in admin, the password. This will be account later you use for login. Remember, your username to login is admin, then followed by @cppmsso2.com, right? I'm not a robot. Agree and continue. Okay, so there's an error in the payment, so let's see. Alright, so it will help you for this plan. You have right to trial 14 days for free, right? But however, right, to be able to use it for free, you need to so-called key in your credit card information here, right, to complete the registration. So make sure that after you key in your correct credit card here and submit, right, your account will be activated. And make sure that after like maybe about 12 on day 12 or day 10, you remember to cancel your plan. If not, it will charge you monthly to your credit card monthly, right? So all right, so I already did just one account, so let me show you, right? So my account is here. I already registered, and let's log into the homepage, right? This is the URL to log into the homepage. Close this one, open a new one. Incognito. So I go to admin. Here, min.google.com. Let's try this out. Alright, so I will log in with my account. So I use my registered account. This PPM SSO1 is my account name, and I log in to this. So this is after you already register your account, right? This one because I turned on to FA, so I need to log into my Google Authenticator 323621. Okay. Alright, so this is your admin admin page for your Google Workspace, the new name of Google G.Suite. So from here, right, you have few things you can use to manage your account. So if you notice, right, I already have one of my so-called the SAML register under here. Can go to my account, right? Manage my account, and if you notice that first time when you register your account, right, the 2FA is turned off, right? So this one 2FA is turned off, right? So actually when you log in first time, there's no 2FA. So let me go here and show you. Alright, so I can just like turn off the 2FA, right? Just to show you this your default account, and this is where you can turn on and turn off your 2FA. Okay. So these are all your the settings we have for now, right? We have the second link that we can go in is this one. We go to the console, right? So this one will be required when you need to do the OAuth2, right? But for now we may not need. Let's try this second link. Okay, let's see something wrong. Flash. Okay. Console. This. Let me try this console.google.com. Oh, it's still safe. This is my old one, right, where I haven't finished my registration yet. So let me close this browser, and I also close this one, right, to reset it. Let me close, and then I open the new one. Okay, so that one is common error when you have the SAML or SSO login, and then you have you open multiple tabs. So let's go back to this one again. You see that now I will log into my CPPM. This is my account, my registered account. Right. So when I open with incognito mode, right, there's nothing saved at all, right? So this is the default login, the screen, right, I have. So I can try this API. This is needed when you need to register for the OAuth2. Okay, so yeah, we log in successfully with that. You go to the dashboard. Right. Okay, so you go to the dashboard, right? This is your dashboard of your account. And normally when you need to register your so-called SAML app, you will do it from here, right? So that is how you use to register your account from G.Suite, right? So do take note this information on your right. This one is required later on when you need to configure on the controller for to whitelist your the access to the Google for SSO, SAML, and OAuth2 authentication. Alright, so let's move to the first one, right? How to configure the Aruba AOS8 guest Wi-Fi and ClearPass captive portal integration with G.Suite SAML SSO. So these are the summary steps that you need to do for this integration. First of all, you need to configure G.Suite for SAML SSO, right? So let me show you how to do this first step. through this first step, you log into your Google G.Suite admin console, and from there you go to the application. Go to here, right? So when you go to application, that's where you can start to go to the SAML app. Click here, and when you click SAML app, right, it will bring you to the page that allow you to create the app. Now you use this link, right? Download this document from Aruba. It is the so-called tech note, right? This is a ClearPass tech note. You search for Google. This is the document, right? Onboard and Google Cloud Identity. So this one is very useful and it's very good document that done by our Aruba POM and TME. This one is mainly for the workflow for the ClearPass onboard and SAML integration workflow, but you can use the same one. It's very similar, right, for this Captive Portal login. For Google, this is where you can start. Go to here, right, SAML. So do take note that the one you see from here is come from the older version. So few things that the interface of Google might change, but the concept is the same. So the first step, you go to here and then go to SAML app, like I just show you. Now the first step is to set up your own custom app. Now, right, go back to here. Go back to this page, right? Move to here. Okay, so you go to this one, and then the first step you have to do is set up your own app, right? So you can go to here, add the app, and you search for add custom SAML app. Click here. So this is where you can create your own app. You can say that cppm SAML, right? Test and continue. Okay, so important, you need to save this information, right? The SSO URL, I recommend is you open the notepad and you need to save all of this info. This info is required later on for to configure on the ClearPass, right? SSO URL, SSO URL, right? And what else we have? Identity ID. Sorry, entity ID, right? This one, and you have the certificate. You download this one here, right? And you can download the. Okay, that's all, right? Then you can click continue. Okay, you can even copy this certificate if you want, just in case, right? Certificate. Actually, it's not needed, but just in case, right? Copy this one. Okay. This is end begin certificate and end certification. Okay. Fingerprinting. This is the one. Copy this one. Save here. Actually, this is not needed, right? But anyway, we just completely copy this one format. Make sure we follow the correct format here, right? And okay. Next step we have to do is just press continue, and this is ACS URL. Now follow the document from here. The next step, like ACS URL, is where you need to key in your ClearPass, right? So basically it is start with HTTPS followed by your ClearPass FQDN. This is important. You can't use IP address. You have to have the proper ClearPass FQDN, right? And followed by this. So normally I just save this one, copy, Ctrl+C, then I just say that ACS URL, and then I have the entity ID, right? Entity ID. So entity ID will show you here, right? Entity ID is to follow this format. SP, C, and then B2B. Now let's take a look at my ClearPass. My ClearPass is let me go to this one, access my ClearPass, right? So as you can see from here, this is my ClearPass FQDN name. I have the public cert on my ClearPass, and I go back to this one. I change this by my ClearPass FQDN, right? Okay. Then I can copy this one and I paste to there. Here is CS, and here is SP, right? Okay. And one of the things you have to click is you check the sign response. This is important, right? Sign response, this is the one. The rest leave it default. Click continue. Add mapping. You can add the mapping here. Follow the guide, this guide, right? You can just show me. No, it's fine. Okay, so title, right? We have employee details, job title, right? So we just click here, employee detail, title, and this one is employee detail, job title, right? Add mapping, department, you map to department, right? This one, department, then you map to department. Let's finish. Okay, so when you've done that one, it says that you have to enter unit identity, the one being used. The reason is because of I already have created one for my SAML, right? So that's why it not allow me to create the second one. We use the same so-called the ClearPass. So means one ClearPass you can only use one IDP, right? Which is identity provider. So cancel, right? I show you what I have done. This is the one I configured or recreated, right? Access detail. It's one more. See that? Okay, go to here. All right, so you see that, right? So this ACS URL, everything, right? So once you create successfully, basically it will ask you to you need to download the data, everything, right? And this information is needed. You have to save it, right? In my case, I already have some info that I already saved, which is here, right? So the info I already saved, and this is what I have for my G.Suite account for testing purpose, right? As you can see from here. The important thing is you have to save is that the SAML info. This is the one I just to show you. This one needed for later on you do the configuration on the ClearPass. And right, yeah. Okay, so that's how you do the configuration on the G.Suite for SAML SSO. The next part is that you have to go to ClearPass CPPM and you do the SAML SSO configuration. To do that, let's go to the ClearPass. There are a few things you have to do. First of all, right, you have to make sure that the certificate is there. First of all, you have to upload the Google certificate to the ClearPass, right? The one you remember, the one we download in the previous step, which is I already download it here and upload here. So basically, you can add it. You add that one into the trust list here, right? And this is the cert that I added in. Okay, so and when you add, you need to choose a usage is for SAML and other, right? So the cert can be used for multiple purpose, right? That's the first step. The second one is that you have to make sure that the ClearPass need to have the public site cert. This one is to form the mutual trust, so the Google G.Suite can trust the ClearPass when they try to create the HTTPS session for SAML, right? Authentication. So that's the reason why you see here, right? We have in my ClearPass, I have my check HTTPS, right? I have the public cert for my ClearPass here, okay? And for the ClearPass 694, you have the option to add in the certificate for the SAML and for the radar services. So actually, I use the same cert for SAML and radar services here, okay? Okay, so we are still at this step, right? So first is the certification. The second one is that you follow it. In fact, right, you still can follow the guide. The guide we have from here. Right, follow this document, right? So this is where you have to do on the ClearPass, right? And then you need to configure. Now in this in SSO authentication, the ClearPass will be function as the identity as service provider, and the Google G.Suite will be function as a identity provider, IDP, right? So you have to configure the ClearPass as a SAML SP and the Google G.Suite at the SAML IDP, right? To do that, you go to the ClearPass under the single sign-on SSO. Now, identity provider, this is where you have to key in the Google, the one that I mentioned, you have to save in previous step, right? SSO URL. You copy this one and you paste to here, right? And in this case, we are using the ClearPass guest for a single sign-on. So that's why you click the enable SSO for ClearPass guest module, right? So if you want to enable SSO for another module like guest operator or inside or person manager or onboard, you click accordingly. But in this particular lab, we are using this one, okay? And select certificate. So this is the ClearPass certificate you use to connect with the Google G.Suite, right? This is the one that you imported under certificate store and under here, and you choose SAML, okay? Right, so that's where you can remember this is a ClearPass and it have to be the valid public cert to use in here, okay? All right, so and of course the next portion is that you need to configure the Google G.Suite as the IDP, identity provider, and this is the cert. Basically, you will tell the ClearPass to trust the cert from the Google, and this is the cert we download in the previous step, right? So we already imported. This is a cert we imported in our previous step into the trust list, right? And then we will choose from here. Right, under here, this is a cert, right? So you after you import, you add import to here, and now you go to here and you choose the cert to trust the cert on Google from here. Make sure that it's a valid cert. That's all, and click update, right? So that is the first requirement for the ClearPass. Now the next one is that let's go to the document again. Here, right? Okay, so the next one is that you can go to dictionary, right? You can follow this one to add the attribute called the phone, everything, right? Number. So this one I already done it, so I'll show you where to do it. So go to administration dictionary. You choose the application and you choose the SSO, right? So this is a list of the attribute already built in with the ClearPass. So these are the additional attribute that we added in, right? If you don't have this attribute, you can export and then you can modify the setting according to this guide, right? Add in one to be able to see this one. So basically, this is attribute so that when later on when we do the SSO, we can get this attribute from the Google G.Suite to use in our policy. Okay, Now, the next step is that we need to configure the so-called the pre-authentication service. Now, even in this guide, it is used for onboard, but it's the same policy for the pre-auth. So basically, this pre-auth, it means that in the SAML workflow, when user key in the user password, right, it will need to check if the account is correct in a valid, right? So that one will be handled by the pre-auth service, right? So to be able to do this one, you just follow this guide or go to configuration services, and then you click add here, and this is what you need to follow the guide. Right, so let me show you the configuration that I already done in here. Go to services and you go to SAML pre-auth guest login, right? So it's quite it's quite straightforward. This Aruba application authentication services, this one, it is basically, it will type is authentication, value is SSO, and this particularly we match the ClearPass guest, right, authentication. And that's all. Actually, we don't use any role mapping at all. And once the user authenticates successfully, I mean, if they key in the correct user password, we just return the allowed of application access profile. It means that when the user key in the correct user password, the ClearPass guest will submit the request to the CPPM, and CPPM will do the check, and it's correct. Then CPPM will just return back to ClearPass guest the access accept, right, and allow the user to move to next step. Okay, so this the first service you have to create to handle the pre-authentication, the pre-auth. Okay, so next step is that so from here right, and below one, this one is it is for the onboarding workflow. So actually you don't really need to follow this one, but if you are intend to use the onboarding integration with the Google G.Suite SSO, then you can follow this one, right? So this one, onboard configuration, is not so, it is not relevant, so I just quickly go through it. That's all, right? Okay, so let's go back to the setting we have, right? So basically those are the important service that we need to configure for the SAML pre-login, right? So basically when user hit login, it will hit this service, and then that's where we can see the user is allowed to log in, right? But remember, this one is only handle the pre-auth, means after user key in the correct Google account. The next thing happen is that like I mentioned, right, because it is the controller initiated workflow, the browser on the client will do HTTP post to the controller, and then controller will follow with the reader's request doing the PEP authentication to the ClearPass CPPM for authentication. So that's the reason why you need to have the second service, which is this one, right? So service number 12. This service is to handle that controller initiated workflow when user hit login, right, and they pass the pre-auth. So basically this service is configured to say that basically it will match any coming request, right, from this SSID, right, and it's not the map op, and it will contain the user contain the CPPM SSO. So means that this is the format of my the username I created for my testing account, G.Suite account, right? So my G.Suite account, later we have the username is user1 at CPPM SSO1.page, right? So go to service. This is a detailed service authentication. Now please take note that for the SSO services, you have to choose authentication method is SSO, right? This is only method supported, right, by SSO, both for SAML and OAuth2. And authentication sources will be the social login repository. So this is the thing is required. Authorization, so basically this one is not really needed, so just ignore it, right? Role mapping, I also don't really do role mapping here, so just ignore it. Now enforcement profile, for the first testing purpose, right? This one you can simply ignore it. It will not be matched at all. Basically, I just want to say that if the user have if they use the same account for more than 10 devices, then I will deny the 11 onward devices. If not, basically they will be allowed to access internet. It means that I will just, this one means match any, right? Match any, and then any request submit, I will match this one, right? And then I will return with this policy. This policy means a return to the controller to change the user role from guest login to guest role, right? So this one, if you go into let me open the new page, right? Duplicate, show you the policy I configured for this one. Enforcement profiles, copy and paste, and you will notice it's just simple Aruba role mapping. So I will return user role and I return the username. This one important when I return the username to so later on when it's login, right, inside it for MacOp later on, so inside it show the MAC address of the user. It will show the real username, right? For now, you just ignore the third condition. Third condition is for MAC caching. I will show it later, right? But now I don't use MAC caching. All right. So I show you already two services. This one is required. This one, the 33 required for the pre-op, right? The service number 12 is for the controller initiated workflow, and we need one more services, which is service 11. This one is for the MAC authentication, right? So basically, when the user first time connect to the Wi-Fi to SSID, the controller will send the MAC authentication request to the CPPM. In my policy, right, this is the configuration. I just want to say that it will match the authentication request come into here, right? Send from this SSID, and then authentication, I do the MAC auth. Basically I just allow the MAC authentication even they are not whitelisted for MAC address, right? Authentication sources is endpoint repository. So basically I don't really do authentication. The match happen is at the authorization, right? I will get this attribute and I do the role mapping. Now role mapping here, for now you just need to focus on the first condition, right? So this condition is to check the MAC caching policy, right? So basically for first condition, it will check if the user the time, right? So if the time I catch is it's still within the time range, then I allow the MAC caching. Okay. You also notice that there's one more condition I use here is this one, right? So basically this one is be applicable for the if we use if we have the guest account in the ClearPass guest database, right? But in this SSO, in fact, right, what we use is we use this condition. It means that for SSO, the guest account, the user account is not on the ClearPass but in the G.Suite. So actually I only check this condition, check the time, whether the time is still valid, right? Then I will return this row, SSO MAC caching row. And under the enforcement, right, if you notice for the enforcement, I just say that if they have the MAC caching row, then I will do the I will allow it to have access. So actually this is not really the correct configuration for MAC caching later. So later we go to MAC caching, we will find out what's wrong with this current policy, right? But for now, basically we don't use the MAC caching, so every time it connect, right, it will hit this policy, which is it will every time we do the CA, our user connect to the Wi-Fi, it will get this policy, right, which is a captive portal log on. Okay, so those are the three services needed for this demo, right? So we have the MAC auth, we have the to handle MAC authentication, We have the radius service to handle the control initiated, where the browser do HTTP post to the controller, and then controller will initiate the radius request and the CPPM for authentication when user hit login. And we also have the SSO pre-auth, right? This one is for to check, make sure that the user account is correct one. Okay, so let's go and do a simple test, right? We will filter. Let's filter the user account is see the user account in this case. The MAC address is D030. Okay, so it's a D030. All right. So now to make sure that everything is start properly, we will just issue the COA to disconnect the user and to reset the session, right? So when we do that, basically the user will get disconnected and it will reinitiate the new the MAC out from the controller sent to the CPPM for authentication. And based on our configured policy, it just return this rollback to the controller, right? Okay, so when we see that, right, we open, let's open the incognito mode, right? And then we go to Aruba networks, see what happened. We go to here, we will get into the so-called landing page. Now why we have to why we go to landing page? That's because of this one, right? When I do the MAC off, it will return this MAC address, the rollback to the controller. And on the controller, if we go into that user, we will see that the user will get this row, right? Guest log on row. Okay. All right. So now let's find out on the user on the controller what have been done, right? So when the user have this row, basically on the controller, we go to the configuration, and there's few things we have to do on the controller perspective to make it work. Basically we have the role and policy, right? There's two roles we configure here. We have the AOS8 guest, which is this one is allow it to have internet access after user login successfully. So that's what the policy is. Actually it allow webs, allow WhatsApp for testing purpose, right? It means that it allow any web traffic and WhatsApp traffic, because Aruba is controller is application aware. And guest log on. Now guest log on role, basically it have few things. First of all, you have to make sure that you do the proper whitelist for the Google, right, login. So basically it means that I will allow the user to access to Google, few of the Google URL. Now where is this URL? This URL is the one I mentioned, the list of the name is here, right? You need to configure to whitelist this name. Remember in the document in the GitHub it's missing this one. You need to have this one in your whitelist to make it work, right? So this one, it means that I will allow any destination is cloud login underscore Google. This is the list of the URL I configured. And then of course you need to allow to access to the ClearPass also to for captive portal, right? The rest is logon control and captive portal for redirection. And of course if you go to the more authentication, you'll see that you need to map the captive portal profile here, right? But before we see the captive portal profile configuration, we go to alias, right, to see what we have under the cloud login Google. This one, the cloud login underscore Google destination, right? So this here, cloud login, this here, right? So this is a list of the name, the DNS name that I mentioned, right? It have to be this list allowed in this one. Okay. All right. Also, let's take a look at the policy to allow access to the ClearPass also. So what we configure there. This one is for allow CPPM Pro, right? So basically it allowed to access to this ClearPass. It means that I allow in the lab, right, I allow IP from the IP level. So that's what you see source any destination alias CPPM port. Basically, this is a list of IP address of my CPPM. If you go to here, right, you check this one, right, you'll see this is a list of my ClearPass. So basically, this is my first ClearPass, my second ClearPass in the cluster, and 39 is my ClearPass virtual IP. Okay. All right. So next one is that we take a look at our authentication on L3 authentication. We map into captive portal here. Right. So basically, in the down here, CP HDB AOS8, yes, right. It means that when the user get so-called redirection, it will redirect to this captive portal you configure under here, captive portal CP, right? Now, the most important for this one is that in my lab, right, I will use the so-called the landing page, right? This is the landing page I use, right? Let's see. Now this landing page is my the page I configured under the ClearPass captive portal. So this is the page you see. It will show to the user when they get redirected to this one. All right. So that is a role for configure from the controller. Of course, beside the role, once you've done the role configuration, you have to create the AAA profile. So the AAA profile I configured for that is this one, right? So initial role I will assign it into this guest log on role, right, with the captive portal. And if they do the authentication, I will assign to this role. But in fact, right, we use a role returned by the ClearPass. So this is how we do the setting. You notice that this is for Mac auth, right? So this AAA we don't really turn on the OpenX authentication. We only turn on for Mac authentication. Now we also turn on the option called use server provided free authentication interval. This one means that you have the option to use the session timeout value returned by the ClearPass to have to customize the reauth timer, right? So Mac authentication server group, you point to the ClearPass, and accounting group point to the ClearPass. Remember that you have to configure the RFC 3576. This option is to allow the COA, the reader COA, right? And if you want to know what we configure under this server group, you can go to authentication server here, and you look at the subgroup here, right? So we have three server configured here. All right. So you have the AAA profile. The next one you have to do is that you need to configure the web VIP, right? To show you the web, I will show you the SSID. So the SSID I configured here is here. The SSID I use is this one. Okay. So this is SSID profile. The name I configured is here. That's where you see it, right? So user will see this Wi-Fi SSID to connect. And you notice that I use the open system. It means that it's no encryption at all, right? So that's all. Simple SSID configuration. So you have the SSID already. You have the AAA profile already. That's where you can configure the virtual AP profile. So virtual AP profile I already configured for this one. And basically to configure virtual AP profile, you need to have the guest VLAN, right? This is the standard one. Then you apply the AAA profile that you already configured in the previous step into here, and then you apply the SSID profile, which is you already configured under here. Right. So once you have the virtual AP profile, that's where you can go to your AP group. So in my lab, right, this is the AP group I use under the wireless LAN. Then you click this one to add into your to AP group to advertise those SSID, right? So in this one, you notice that I already have this one in my to added into my AP group. Okay, so that is simple how we configure on the Wi-Fi from the Wi-Fi perspective. Now the next part is that we will need to find out how to actually I already show you here, right? So now we need to find out how to configure the ClearPass guest for this. Sorry, should be this one. ClearPass guest for SAML SSO login, right? To do that, we go to the ClearPass guest, which is from here. So we go to ClearPass guest admin page, right? Go to configuration. Now in my workflow, I have one so-called a self registration page. This page I use is for landing page. So I just go to here, I create the self registration page, right? And this is the page I use for my landing page. So if you go here, you go to launch here. This is the page that you remember I copied this one to do the redirection from the controller, right? So let's go to this page to see how can I configure this. I go to self registration here, go to edit. Now you can go to advanced editor. All right, the rest of first of all, the skin I use a Galleria skin tool, right? So that's why I also change my background photo. That's why you see the background photo is this is my custom photo I have. I put it in, right? And remember, I'm not really so-called prevent the CNA, which is the mini browser, right? Because of it is supported in the workflow. So we just keep it on, and under the register page UI. So the landing page you see here is this. This is the register page, right? So and this one is a header. This part is header, and the below part is a footer, right? So I purposely put those hyperlink to my another page, right? To support different workflow under the footer of this landing page. So that's the reason why if you look at the footer HTML, you will see the list of my HTML code, right? To provide the hyperlink to different workflow I configured to another page, right? So in for this particular session today, the one you should look at is this one. We will do SAML 2 SSO, right? So the SAML 2 SSO is the one I configured to map. So this is a code, right? This is the email code. I map into this page. This page. Okay, now you notice that I also add in this so-called this HTML code. So basically this code is to capture the MAC address from the from the HTTP redirection. So one of the very key important parameter when you do the Celtic Portal authentication is that the ClearPass guest need to have the client MAC address. So that's the reason why when you provide the hyperlink from here, make sure that you need to have the MAC address. You have to redirect, include the MAC address in the the hyperlink, right? So normally the MAC address, it will be captured. This is the real one on the client, right? The MAC address of the client you see here, it will be included in the redirection. So that's why when you have in this if you include the HTML code and you click in this one, you notice this bar, right? It will have this one. It will have the MAC address of the client included in the redirection. So this is required to make it work. Remember, without this code, right, your redirection will not work. So please take note to make sure that you include this one. Okay. Alright, so and this is the page I configured, right? So you may ask me where is this page? So let me right click, I duplicate. So when you do the ClearPass configuration, make sure you open multiple pages for you to easier for configuration. So the page I configure is SSO SAML G.Suite 1 CPPM SSO1.php. So the page under web login. This is the page that I configured, right? So it means that when I click to this URL, it will bring me to that log on page, right? Now, so uh, what I have configured for this page. Now, there are few things. You have to set the page name and name the name of the page, right? And normally I will set these two one. These two names are the same. This page name will be shown under here, right? So please take note. Vendor setting. Remember we are using Aruba Wi-Fi, so we choose Aruba. Remember login method, we have to choose the controller initiated. If you choose server initiated, it will not work. So please take note on this. And address, this is my controller public search CN. So if you want to know, you can go to here, click here, and you can see the certificate of my controller. These are the CN, right? Network login .arubalab.net, right? So this is the name I use, right? In the search. Secure login, use the vendor default. Use vendor default means it will use HTTPS, right? In some so for SSO you have to use a public site search to make it work. Okay. The rest other setting you leave it default. Now, important, right? For if you want to use the SSO for authentication, I mean for web log on, so the pre-auth check you have to choose a single sign-on and use a SAML provider. The default when you create the new page, it will use a local, which is the account is on the ClearPass. If you choose this option, it means that the ClearPass guest will send the reader's request to CPPM. That's where you can have the option to use the external account like from the AD for authentication. But in this particular case, we use a single sign-on for SAML, right? So for pre-auth, we have to choose this option. Now, after user authenticates successfully, they will be redirected to this URL. So this is the one that I put it in. And login page, I choose Galleria skin tree. Okay, so you can choose any skin you want, right? Because we are using the so-called controller initiated workflow, so you can choose a login delay, can be 1 or 2 seconds. Remember, when you are doing the server initiated, you have to choose login delay longer. Normally you can choose 7 to 10 seconds to allow it enough time for the ClearPass guest to do the request to CPPM and then CPPM send the request to control to change the role, right? But in this controller initiated workflow, it will be the client browser do HTTP post to controller, and then controller will do the reader's request to the CPPM for authentication. So you need to have the login delay long. 2 seconds, it is good enough. Other setting you leave it default, right? That's all. So that is how you configure the login page for the single sign-on. So remember, when you will notice that when I click, right, when I click to this one, it directly it bring me to the Google, but this is for testing page, it will not work. So if I want to test, I need to go from here and I click here, right, this SAML. So when I click here, it will bring me to the captive login page from the Google. So now one thing is important. This is the login page of the Google account, G.Suite. It means that you need to make sure that under the role configuration of your controller, the white listed for the log on role, it need to allow the list of the white listed URL, this one, right? Under configuration, if you don't configure the white listed applied to that role, let me show you again. This is important, right? This one. Okay, cloud login underscore Google and allow CPPM Pro. You need to allow these two conditions to make it work, right? So to be able to see the page, this is where we need to have, right? And under alias, you see the Google, this is a list of the DNS name you need to allow, right? So now I can log in with my account, user 1, password. Now the user 1 is it is the account, the username account I created for this under my CPPM SSO1 web page G.Suite domain, right? It's just a normal user account. So this 2 seconds, and then HTTP post to controller, right? Controller do the readers request to the ClearPass for authentication. Now I get access to internet, right? So that's the reason why if you go back to the ClearPass, you will see, first of all, if you do the radius with the MAC caching, right? So this is the request sent by the sent by client to the. But before this one, right, you notice that we have one more policy, which is this one. This is the request sent by when user log in to the Google account. This SAML, right? So you notice, right, this request is sent by who? Right, basically this one is sent by the ClearPass guest, right, to the ClearPass CPPM, and the ClearPass CPPM, after it's logged in with correct account, then we just return the application allowed profile, right? And then it can move to the next step, which is the controller initiated workflow, right? This one is sent by the controller to the ClearPass CPPM for authentication, and then we just return the guest role, and because of that, right, we go to the controller. If we check the user role, we see that the user already changed to the guest role, and that's the reason why we have internet access for this one. Okay, so that is entire workflow we have configured to for the SAML integration with the ClearPass and Aruba AOS8. That's all for this session, right? In the next session, we will find out how to do the ClearPass CPPM AOS8 and G.Suite in the OAuth2 integration. Thank you.